Before we get started on today's video, a quick public service announcement for any American viewers out there. This is a football. Hello everybody, welcome to the Re-Review, the series where I get to replay and reassess games from my favourite gaming era. I'm Brian, also known as UK Jens Zoidberg, and I can't kick a football to save my life. Thankfully, there have always been many ways in which I can have a kickabout virtually, and many of the best ones of those were on the Amiga. If you want to know what my favourites were, check out the full Retro Game Super League video. And if you're wondering what's happened to that series, let me just say that I'm working on some ideas now of how I can bring it back. Hopefully, I can share some details soon. In today's re-review episode, however, I'm going to be looking into the critical reception for one of the most original platform games that was ever released for the Amiga. That game is Soccer Kid, which was developed and published by Chrysalis Software in 1993. Chrysalis Software took the UK sales charts by storm in 1991 when they released Manchester United Europe, a game which stayed in the All Formats Top 20 for almost an entire year. As the person who had to deal with the charts every week on Games X, I can honestly say that I got sick of seeing it every week. They followed up the success of that game with the release of John Barnes' European Football in 1992, a game that was essentially more of the same. The next question that they had to ask themselves though was, when there's a World Cup looming on the horizon and you've just made two of the Amiga's best side-on football games, what do you do next? The answer to that question was not what anyone expected, and Football Kid, as it was known at the time, was announced in 1992. This was going to be a platform game where the player used a football to kick at enemies, break through obstacles, and even bounce off to reach higher areas. It certainly sounded different. Development had begun in early 1992, when the team behind Manchester United Europe started playing around with ideas of how they could incorporate football into other genres. The game engine was created by Peter Harrop, who had previously made the Monty Mole games for Gremlin. It featured parallax scrolling, moving platforms, and large enemies, all moving at a silky smooth 50 frames a second. The same game engine was also used for the platform adventure game Arabian Nights, which was released in early 1993. Co-designer Nigel Little was then free to concentrate on building levels, while regular Chrysalis composer Matt Furness was brought on board to compose the game's soundtrack. By the time full previews of the game started to appear, the name had been changed to Soccer Kid, which admittedly does roll off the tongue a little bit better than Football Kid. And let's face it, it could have been worse. They could have called it something terrible, like The Adventures of Kid Cleats or something. Oh wait, they did. After the successful launch of the Amiga version, it was then followed by an A1200 version a few months later with more colourful graphics. It was also released for the CD32, featuring a brand new animated intro and a previously cut level added back in. Chrysalis would convert the game to the SNES and PC themselves, with Team 17 handling the 3DO version and Readysoft producing the game for the Atari Jaguar. It even got a release on the Sony PlayStation some 10 years after the original release, thanks to Telegames. Despite the game's obvious popularity, there was never any talk of a sequel. Chrysalis did, however, continue to make games for the Amiga, including two more Manchester United games, as well as the Zelda-like action RPG Legends. They were also one of the publishers who really supported the CD32, converting many of their back catalogue to the ill-fated console. Like many Amiga developers, they would struggle to make the jump to consoles, where they ultimately found themselves converting other developers' games to the Sony PlayStation. These included the enjoyable real-time strategy game Z from the Bitmap Brothers, as well as Magic Carpet and Theme Hospital from Bullfrog. They would return to the world of football games in 1999 with FA Manager published by Eidos. Even though it was officially licensed by the Football Association and featured commentary from Brian Moore on the in-game highlights, the game failed to make much of an impact alongside the likes of Premier Manager and LMA Manager. The company closed its doors in 2001 after releasing their final game, Popstar Maker, for the PlayStation. Many of the staff would continue to work in the games industry though, finding themselves at studios such as Kuju Entertainment, Distinctive Developments, and Sumo Digital. Now it's time to see what the critics had to say about Soccer Kid in 1993 as we check out the reviews. I've covered some highly rated games already in this series, but I honestly never expected Soccer Kid to be one of the highest. The first review was in issue 49 of Amiga Action, where the game also featured on the cover. Across 3 pages, reviewer Paul Roundell was full of praise for the game, stating that placing a football at the character's feet made the game feel fresh and original compared to other platform games. He awarded it a final score of 93%. The same score was given by David Upchurch in issue 60 of the One Amiga. He stated that the game's incredible graphics would put many Super Nintendo releases to shame. In both instances, the game was reviewed in the same issue as DMA's Hired Guns, and scored higher. Both CU Amiga and Amiga Format would also give scores of 93% in their reviews, with Amiga Computing going even further and giving it a score of 94%. The only Amiga magazine to go below 90 was, of course, Amiga Power, where Stuart Campbell gave it a still strong 88%. He was especially happy with the way that Chrysalis had made good use of the Amiga's hardware. From 7 reviews that I found in UK magazines, the average score was a mightily impressive 91.4%, which is actually the same average as Syndicate. On Lemon Amiga, the user score is currently 8.01 from 144 reviews, with 35% of the scores given being 8 out of 10. Now it's time to load the game up for myself and give it a play. It's time for the playtest. Okay, so here we are. Before you even start playing the game, there was a really good design decision on part of the team where you can actually change the colour of your player's kit, which for anybody who didn't want to play in the colours of their rival team was an absolute genius inclusion. What I think I'll do is I'll have him play in an England kit. There we go. He will play in England colours. So there are many different skills that you can do with the football in the game. I was trying for an overhead kick there. You can pop it up onto your head, do some keepy ups, and then you can actually, if you time it right, do an overhead kick like that. So you can use the football to kick at enemies, collect items, all sorts. Unfortunately, the game did not support 2-button joysticks back in the day, and you were stuck having to push up on the joystick. So even if you did plug in a joypad and play with it, you'd still have to push up on the D-pad. Obviously, you get bits at the spike pits where the ball will burst if you let it land in them. And you do actually only get a limited number of footballs that you can take per level. I think it's 10. That's something that always annoys me about platform games, is when you get sent so far back whenever you lose a life. This is the A1200 version that I am playing here, which was released in 1994, 1 year after the original, where they increased the number of colours on screen. But as you can see, it is a very, very smooth running, good looking game all round. And it's nice how the collectibles are all football cards, and that you have to pick up 11 of them, so you've got a full team. It is somewhat annoying that you can't actually run at top speed for very long, because enemies just keep appearing that will hamper your movement. I also find it a little bit annoying that that the kid is pretty much defenseless if he doesn't have the ball at his feet. Platform game logic would determine that surely you should be able to jump on the heads of enemies. At least the other characters do always appear in the same place every time, so you can actually learn when they're going to turn up. There's the last card. So by collecting 11 football cards, it should now take me to the bonus stage where I can get a piece of the cup. And you get awarded points for all the different trick shots that you did during the level. So you have to get all the collectibles within the time limit, and then that should reveal a piece of the cup for me to pick up. 4 seconds left. And there it is. And yes, there's, as you can see, when you crouch down, you can see things below. So there's a little indentation in the grass there, which gives away the fact that there is an area that you can go down into. I don't know why they didn't just leave the character in the centre of the screen like they did on Arabian Nights, because it means that every time you change direction, it starts. You start to lose track of him, and it starts to hurt your eyes after a while. I find it odd that there's no counter on screen to tell you how many balls you've used as well. I think you're only allowed to use 10. Why, if I'm underground, can I still see the fields behind me? The lily pads will not float for long, right? Oh. And Soccer Kid cannot swim! Surely the sliding tackle that you can do should be another way of harming enemies, you'd think, as well, but no, that's not the case. That's better. Another odd choice of something that isn't in the game, but probably should be, is why are there not any goalposts anywhere in order for you to kick the ball through it for bonus points? You'd have thought that would be like one of the first things that they would have incorporated. Oh, no way, game over again. Why can't you type your name on the high score table? Oh well, never mind. So yeah, let's leave the playtest there and move on to my final summary. It's a very frustrating game, but at the same time, an obviously brilliant one. So we need to wrap all that up in the re-review itself. I think Soccer Kid might be the best looking platform game on the Amiga, especially if you're playing the AGA version. The graphics engine is simply superb, with smooth scrolling, detailed backgrounds and fantastic looking characters. The way that the ball bounces around and reacts to the scenery is just the icing on the cake. The soundtrack is fantastic too, with a number of excellent tunes accompanying the action. Composer Matt Furness may not get mentioned as much as the likes of Alistair Brimble and Chris Hulsbeck, but honestly, on the evidence of this game, he deserves to be. The whole idea of having a football to kick around the levels is a brilliant one, and the levels themselves are very well designed, with just the right amount of secrets for you to discover by venturing off the beaten path. More could probably have been done with the concept, but many of those ideas were probably being kept for a sequel that we never got. So with such good presentation and design, why don't I like the game that much? It all boils down to how frustrating the game is to play. I don't mind a bit of a challenge, but when I'm constantly losing a life because I ran into an enemy or a trap that came out of nowhere, it starts to feel a bit unfair. Kicking a ball is a great form of attack, but when that ball has gone off screen, you're left utterly defenceless. Why the designers didn't allow you to jump on the heads of enemies as well, I'll never know. One thing that spoils the overall look of the game though, is the way that the player character doesn't stay central on the screen. When you're moving left or right, he'll shift closer to the opposite edge, meaning that the screen jarringly lurches from one side to the other if you should happen to change direction quickly. After a while, it really started to hurt my eyes. It's disappointing, especially when you realise that it wasn't an issue that befell Arabian Nights. Lastly, only having one checkpoint per level makes having to replay sections over and over again very annoying, especially when you realise that anything that you've picked up doesn't respawn with you, including the energy pickups. For me, there's just too much about Soccer Kid that's annoying or frustrating to put it in the essential tier of the mascot platform Super League. However, there's also definitely enough about the game that's great in order to keep it in the recommended tier. There's a full Retro Game Super Leagues video about this category somewhere else on the channel, and I'll put the link in the video description. With just a couple of minor fixes, we could have been talking about a genuine Amiga classic here, but as it is, the flaws drag it down to a 7 out of 10 from me. Thank you for watching this episode of the re-review. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you're a fan of this series, then please do remember to give us a like and subscribe so that you don't miss the next one. I'll put a link on screen to the full playlist of previous episodes if you want to catch up on any that you might have missed. If you remember playing Soccer Kid back in the day, I'd love to hear your memories of it. All opinions expressed in this video are entirely mine and not those of the UK Gaming Network team, but I'd still love to know what yours are in the comments as well. Becoming a channel VIP will grant you early access to many of our videos, including this series, as well as extended gameplay videos and exclusive posts. It costs just £1.99 a month, and the full details of how you can join will be